Hello, guys. Welcome back to The Victim's Voice. Today's case is out of Flint, Michigan. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Trenton Dobrzenski was born in Flint, Michigan. He had two brothers, John and Brian, and four sisters, Holly, Heather, Tricia, and Lisa. According to his sister Holly, Trenton was a daddy's boy through and through. She said they were always together. If you saw one of them, the other was most likely close by. His dad let him get away with everything. She remembers when Trenton was around 4 years old, he would go somewhere with his dad, and his dad would put the car seat in the vehicle just to appease Trenton's mom. However, Trenton never sat in the car seat. He would be standing in the passenger seat right next to his daddy. Trenton was self-taught in most things that he did. His family says he was musically and mechanically gifted. If he was interested in something, he put all his energy into doing it, like playing the guitar, for example. He started playing when he was 14 years old and never took lessons. He taught himself how to play. And believe me, the guitar is not an easy instrument to learn. Holly says she remembers Trenton being as young as 3 or 4 and going out to the garage with his dad and taking things apart, just so he could put them back together again. Holly said that Trenton took an old lawnmower and souped it up. She said that thing went at least 35 miles an hour when Trenton was done with it. Trenton was a quiet person and usually kept his feelings to himself. He very rarely talked to anybody about things that were going on in his life. Trenton was the kind of kid that marched to the beat of his own drum. He didn't try to fit in with anyone. He did the things that he liked to do and didn't care what anyone thought. Trenton was never one that was able to focus on academics or be interested in school events, such as dances or sports, but he made it up in other areas. Holly says she remembers she and Trenton's dad having to help him with his work in order to get it done and make sure he was caught up. At the end of school, when he should have graduated, he was still a few credits short and had just finished an independent study program so that he could receive his diploma through the Kearsley School District. But Trenton would never get to hold that diploma in his hand. May 1st, 2012 started out like any other day. Holly told me that morning she was sitting at the table with Trenton having coffee as usual when his phone started blowing up. It was Trenton's friend. I use that term loosely. Craig Wilkins. Trenton felt sorry for Craig. He had some problems that stemmed from being addicted to drugs when he was born, and it affected his cognitive behavior. So Trenton befriended Craig. That morning, Craig wanted Trenton to go fishing with him. Trenton told Holly that he really didn't want to go, but he eventually changed his mind and decided he would go. He got up and started heading out the door. Holly told him to be safe. He said he would and that he loved her. She told him she loved him too, and then the door closed. That's the last time she would see her brother alive. What happened next is Craig's account of things, since he and Trenton were the only two out there on the lake. They were taking Craig's brother's boat out on Mott Lake, which is located in Genesee Township, Michigan. Trenton pulled the boat there with his truck. He parked near the loading dock and they put the boat in the water. According to Craig, at around 9 p.m., they were driving the boat back to shore when Trenton suddenly throttled down, stopping the boat, causing it to take in water and capsize. There was only one life preserver on the boat, which Craig says they were fighting over, but Trenton gained possession of it. Yet somehow, he still didn't make it out of the water, while Craig did. There are many parts of Craig's story that just don't add up. We will go over all of them. First of all, let's talk about the life preserver and how Craig made it to the land while Trenton did not. They were only approximately 13 feet from the shore. Trenton was an excellent swimmer, so he should have been able to swim without the life preserver. But since he had one, according to Craig, there is absolutely no reason he should have drowned. Craig, on the other hand, was not a good swimmer. Yet, he says he made it back to the shore without the life preserver. How does that happen? Also, the boat supposedly capsized around 9 p.m. It wasn't until after 11 p.m. that Craig drove Trenton's truck to Trenton's dad's house, used the garage door opener that had been in the truck, and woke up Trenton's dad to tell him that, quote, he thinks that Trenton drowned, unquote. When Trenton's dad asked if he had called the police, Craig said, "No, you do it." Trenton's dad said, "No, you can do it because you are the one that knows what happened." Also, if you're wondering why Craig didn't get to Trenton's dad's house till after 11, it's because after he got out of the water, he went the opposite way of where the ranger station and police department were, got in Trenton's truck, and went to a friend's house to drink and do some drugs. I mean, priorities, right? So after the police were finally called, they met Trenton's family and Craig back down at the lake where the boat capsized to try to find Trenton. It was, of course, dark at this point, so they didn't get to search very long, and then postponed it until the morning. They did talk to Craig that night, however. They didn't formally question him until 5 days after the incident. He said that he and Trenton had been drinking 100 proof liquor and took a lot of Xanax while on the boat. We will discuss this when we read what was in his toxicology report, but you might have already guessed that it doesn't add up to what Craig is saying, which we will find is a common occurrence in this story. The next morning, it was boots on the ground in the search for Trenton. They were searching by land, air, and water. The sonar boats were out on the lake along with MSP's dive team. They had search and recovery out there also. A lot of people from the community came out and were searching by foot along with Trenton's family. The state police also had helicopters out searching for him. This went on for 8 long days until Thursday, May 10th, 2012. With the help of a police cadaver dog, Trenton's body was found in the water. He was found between 2 islands in shallow water. He was found upstream from where the boat supposedly capsized. There is no way his body could have defied gravity and floated against the current. He was on his knees with his back up in the air and face down. When they took him out of the water by his belt and laid him on the ground face down, in my opinion, they compromised a lot of evidence. Because of this happening on a lake in Michigan, the case is not investigated by the local police, but instead by the park rangers of Genesee County Parks and Recreation Commission. The chief ranger in charge was Kevin Scheinlin. However, he put another ranger in charge of this investigation because he said he knew the area better. This ranger is the brother of Craig Wilkins, the guy that was with Trenton in the boat. In my opinion, that is a conflict of interest, but what do I know? The next day, Friday, May 11th, an autopsy was done on Trenton. He was not bloated. He had no bites on him from fish, turtles, or any other creature that could have been in the water. Holly told me that there was a giant turtle in that lake. What really stands out to me was that they found his contacts still intact in his eyes. I know when I go swimming or even in the shower, my contacts are all over the place, ready to pop out. And a lot of times they do. So it doesn't seem plausible that he was in the water that whole time. Also, I have seen a picture of Trenton's face after he was found. His nose is bright red, which is an indication that it could have been frostbite. The water in the lake was cold at the beginning of May, but not cold enough to cause frostbite. We will probably never know if he had frostbite, though, since the coroner never took Trenton's body temperature at the time of the autopsy. He took the ranger's word for it that it was an accidental drowning. They tried to say Craig had hypothermia, but how could they even know that when it had been hours after when they were notified, and even longer than that by the time they checked out Craig? Trenton also had a bruise on the back of his neck. It looked like someone had put him in a chokehold and applied pressure. He also had a bruise on his right side between his ribs, which looked like he might have been kicked. It was also discovered that Craig had scratches on his arms, and they were in the direction they would be to coincide with Trenton trying to pull his arm off if he was in a chokehold. It was also his dominant arm that the scratches were on. Remember when I said earlier Craig had told law enforcement that they had been drinking 100 proof liquor and took a bunch of Xanax? Well, the toxicology report came back, and there was zero zilch alcohol in Trenton's system. They found caffeine, they found nicotine, and there was Xanax, but it was a very, very small amount. Why would Craig lie about this? And if he is lying about this, what else could he be lying about? What really happened out on the lake that night? Was there an altercation that led Trenton being knocked out before he hit the water? Trenton's death was ruled an accidental drowning and the case was closed. His family and some community members believe if it had been properly investigated, they would find all the inconsistencies and holes in Craig's story. 3 years after Trenton's death, his older brother Johnny was in town. Johnny knew who Craig was, however, Craig didn't know who Johnny was. Johnny saw him at a gas station and went up and shook his hand. He gripped his hand tight as he told Craig that he was Trenton's brother. Craig freaked out and told the cashier to call the police. Why was he so scared and nervous if he had done nothing wrong? Some people thought Craig might have a grudge against Trenton because of an incident that happened shortly before Trenton's death. Trenton, Craig, and another friend were in a car riding around. Craig was driving and he got pulled over. He had cocaine on him, so he handed it to Trenton. Craig was arrested on an outstanding warrant. When he got out of jail, he went to Trenton wanting his drugs back, but Trenton told him he had gotten rid of them. Craig was pissed, but was he pissed enough to commit murder? Trenton's family has been on a mission for the last 11 years trying to find answers. They don't necessarily believe Trenton was taken out there and to be murdered, but they feel maybe an altercation happened and Trenton was knocked unconscious before falling in the water. They just want to know what happened, and they don't feel like they have gotten the full story. Trenton deserves justice and for the truth to come to light. His family deserves some closure so they can start navigating how to live their lives without Trenton. You can go over to the Victim's Voice Facebook page where I will post photos from this case, and come back next week where we will start the multi-part series on the case of Morgan Ingram. Until then, peace out.